How's it going, people? Salmon Slabber here, and this is the very first episode of Runescape Lore. And to start it all off, we should start at the very beginning, I think. So, we will be talking about the Elder Gods. So many of you may have never actually even heard of the Elder Gods, let alone know they even existed. So, what are the actual Elder Gods? Well, it's actually theorized that the Elder Gods are a group of genuine gods that existed so long ago that even Guthix himself, the very first being to enter Gielinor, struggles to remember them. They occupy the highest possible tier of godhood. This basically enables them to create life and even whole entire planetary systems. Most Elder Gods generally operate in groups rather than being alone. The Elder Gods themselves have actually created every single world within the multiverse. Now, while we're on the subject of the multiverse, you can think of the multiverse as the universe. And within this universe, there is galaxies known as planes. And within these planes is where these planetary objects are actually made by the Elder Gods themselves. The world of Gielinor itself, in which the majority of RuneScape's actions genuinely take place, is only one of the planes within the multiverse. And in fact, you are actually able to visit a number of different worlds within the multiverse, but never technically leave it. A good example of this is when you talk to star sprites after finding a falling star. They actually mention about cross-dimensional travelling, and they only take physical shape when they enter Gielinor itself. They also mention the multiverse if you read Dathana's message, which can be found on the Isle of San in the plane of the Kethsi. And within this multiverse is where these Elder Gods mostly enact their power, and of where they are supposedly sent to sleep at this time. Through the use of their power and the use of Elder Artefacts, which are items that the Elder Gods themselves made to help them perfect their craft, their goal was to create a perfect world, a utopia, which actually ended up to be Gielinor itself. What happened to them afterwards, after creating this immense planet, an absolute utopia, is actually unknown, though it can be assumed that they did go into hibernation due to some transcripts found in the Tazar lands. In the Tazar lands you can actually find an ancient book, which you can get translated by Tsar-Galkot, and he will actually say it for you, and it does mention the fact that these Elder Gods did generally exist. Now here's a couple of snippets from it.
We are the Tok'ar Hawk. When it is necessary, we rise up, and we speak for the Tok'ar. We are the voice of the Masters. When the Masters wish to speak, they speak through us. The Tok'ar Hawk hear the words of the Masters. Only the Tok'ar Hawk are strong enough to channel the voice of the Masters. Only the Tok'ar Hawk can hope to voice the incomprehensible thoughts of the Masters. The Tok'ar Hawk are the voice cast. We listen, we speak, and all Tok'ar obey.
Now that is just one book from the Tok'ar script. There is actually 5 altogether, and throughout it they mention the Masters, and it is generally believed that the Masters they refer to are the Elder Gods. The reason for this is the Tazar themselves are actually an ancient race. In fact, it is believed that the Tazar are actually the very first sentient life forms to even exist on Gielinor. So it does lie fairly well with the fact that the Masters they refer to within these scripts are the Elder Gods themselves. In fact, one of them does actually read, "The Masters lie still above us. We do not know if they will awaken," which kind of ties into the fact that the Elder Gods have actually gone into hibernation somewhere within the multiverse, although whether or not they will awaken and come back is unknown, though it is believed by the Tazar and the Tok'ar that they will come back again. Now, even though the Elder Gods created the universe of Gielinor itself, it is commonly believed that Guthix actually created Gielinor. the god of balance himself is keen to point out that the plane already existed when he discovered it. Guthix actually only created Gielinor in the sense that he shaped the empty vastness and lifeless planet. It originally was into the world it is today. Adding life in the form of plants and animals, as well as some very basic races, in fact even including races such as the gnomes and the dwarves. The Elder Gods are exceedingly powerful, surpassing every younger god in every way. And there are several Elder Gods, and some of them are currently actually within Gielinor. Now some of the Elder Gods that we know of for certain, there's actually 3 we know of at this moment, one of which is Jazz. Now Jazz was part of a trio. Who the others are currently unknown, and very little is actually known about Jazz himself. The only thing we do know is the Stone of Jazz, and this stone has actually been named after her. She is one of the 3 Elder Gods seen within the origins of Gielinor, but it is unknown which of these 3 gods Jazz actually is. She participated in the creation of Gielinor and cursed the Dragonkin race, which was also created by her, turning them into the eternal guardians of the Stone of Jazz. Now that is pretty interesting. This is just one of the Elder Gods, we're unsure which one it is. But Jazz would be one of the main Elder Gods that we know of to date, one of the ancient beings responsible for the creation of the universe, including Gielinor. This suggests that if Jazz represents a specific theme, as is common among most gods and goddesses, they are the Elder God of Time. So it is commonly believed that Jazz is the Time God. In addition to the roles they played in shaping the universe, Jazz is specifically responsible for creating the Stone of Jazz, an Elder artifact, but most purely expressed her power, and one that has played a prominent role in Gielinor's history to date. They also created and enslaved the Dragonkin, binding them to the stone, in order to prevent its power from being misused. The Elder Gods shaped many worlds throughout the universe, each time improving their designs, and with the assistance of the Elder Artefacts, including the Elder Kiln. After creating Gielinor, meant to be their final and most perfect creation, the Elder Gods lay down upon their world and spoke no more to the TheCompleteRS. This suggests the Elder Gods did not depart from Gielinor after creating it, but instead remained on it, or within it. Sleeping or deceased is unclear. Another god we do know of is Full, or Full. Full is the older goddess of constancy and fire. Now Full actually made the Elder Kiln itself, and actually created the TheCompleteRS race. Full and her fellow Elder Gods actually created all the planets in the universe. They made new planets over and over and over and over in an attempt to create the perfect utopia. The 3 Elder Gods, mighty beings with unequal power, originally attempted making planets with their bare hands, but they generally failed. So, to help them within their cause, they ended up creating the Artefacts, now known as Elder Artefacts, to aid them. This enhanced their power and helped them to perfect their abilities. Full actually created the Elder Kiln, and the TheCompleteRS were created from it to build and shape mountains and planets. When the Elder Gods found the world they created to be imperfect, they would take their artifacts and abandon it. Full herself actually rips the Elder Kiln from the imperfect planets that it was placed on each time, and actually moved it to the new setting every single time. So that ties in again to the TheCompleteRS being the original species within Gielinor itself, as the Elder Kiln itself is an Elder artifact, and these were used by the Elder Gods, the very first life in existence. The 3rd god, the Runescape Creator God. Now this fella is slightly different from the other 2. The legends of the Mazra speak of an evil creator god in their homeworld of Runescape. He is said to have combined his most fearsome creatures into the Muspah. He is one of the Elder Gods that didn't actually participate within the creation of Gielinor. Ali the Wise, within Al-Kharid actually describes Frenesque, the creator god, as cruel and archaic. Unlike most others, this elder god preferred to work alone rather than groups. And another notable exception about this god is that he actually created life. Namely, he created the Majara, whereas most life on the other planets created by the elder gods generally evolved naturally, similar to the process that happened on Gielinor. So these are the elder gods. There isn't really a lot known about them, but we do know a little bit about their artifacts. In fact, the only real solid physical information we have on the elder gods themselves is their artifacts. Now, we're not actually sure specifically what each one does altogether, but the elder artifacts themselves we do know a bit about. So the elder artifacts are also known as the Elder 12. These items are a class of immensely powerful and divine artifacts that were created by the elder gods. They used these as conduits for the power to carefully craft perfect details into their creations. These artifacts are so powerful that merely spending time with one of the Elder 12 artifacts will actually make it possible to attain godhood. Some of the artifacts are called Elder Weapons or God Slayers. The most well known of these is actually referenced to by Guthix, the Staff of Armadyl. So the known Elder artifacts we do know about is the Stone of Jazz. The Stone of Jazz is one of the most well known artifacts, but is also commonly known as the Eye of Saradomin or the Fist of Guthix. It is the most powerful artifact created by Jazz, the Elder Goddess of Time. While technically not a weapon, it does grant its users part of its immense power. However, guardians called the Dragonkin, a dragon humanoid race created to enslaved and cursed by Jazz to feel agonizing pain at every moment, mainly when the stone is being misused. When the stone is actually misused, the Dragonkin are given power equal to that was given to the user and are tasked to destroy them, making it one of the most risky artifacts to ever be used. It has a very long history of use and relocation. In fact, notable users of the stone actually include Guthix himself, the Kethians, Zamorak, Saradomin, and Lucian. The stone is also the cause of the existence of Runescence, Daylight Ore, and the Fist of Guthix. The Stone of Jazz also played a major role in the destruction of the Forinthi site, that was by Zamorak, and with his powers enhanced by it at the end of the God Wars, he actually seared the entirety of the continent, and that continent is now known as the Wilderness. So another god artifact is the Staff of Armadyl. This staff is commonly referred to as the Staff of Armadyl, although its true name is actually unknown. This was the first of the Elder artifacts to be released in-game during the Temple of Ikov quest. It was found by Guthix at Gielinor during the First Age. This was when Guthix was travelling between dimensions with his sword. He wasn't particularly interested within the Staff of Armadyl and actually hid it before sleeping in the middle of the perfect world to let mortals enjoy it. After that, it was actually found and used by the god Armadyl himself, hence the name, during the Second Age. And obviously this soon became linked to Armadyl himself, and then the Staff of Armadyl came to being. His followers adopted the symbol from the staff and it became Armadyl's emblem. Notable users of the actual staff itself does include Zamorak, Lucian, and Slisk. After Zamorak had used the staff, it was placed under protection of the Guardians of Armadyl. They were tasked to protect it. The staff was referred to as the God Slayer by Guthix. It amplifies its user's powers and magical capabilities and serves as a conduit for power as well. Two of the most important events in which the staff was involved was the death of Guthix and the banishment of Zaros. The symbol on top of the staff is often seen as a symbol of Armadyl, and the symbol on the bottom the symbol of Saradomin. This is however not necessarily the case, as is evidenced by the response by one of the Jagex mods on a question. I'll quote him now. As you've probably guessed, the Staff of Armadyl wasn't always called the Staff of Armadyl. It was an Elder God weapon, and Armadyl was the one to claim it. He also named it and used it when he came to Gielinor. it is likely that his followers decided to use the symbol simply to affiliate themselves with Armadil. So moving on, another Elder artifact that was commonly used is the Elder Sword. Now this sword is also known as Guthix's sword. After picking it up when Scar-Garroth dropped it during the Naragi God Wars, Guthix used it to wound Tusker and kill Scar-Garroth, making him ascend to godhood, after which he used the sword to cut open portals which allowed him to travel across worlds. The Elder Sword currently lies shattered in Guthix's cave, too dangerous to be used and still crackling with energy. The sword is not to be confused with the sword found in the wilderness, which is actually the sword associated with the edicts of Guthix itself. Moving on, you also have the Crown Elder artifact. There's not much known about the crown itself. All we do know is that the crown is an artifact that enables the user to locate all other artifacts, but also enables the users of these other artifacts to locate the Elder Crown, making it one of the most useful and risky artifacts ever to be used. The Elder Crown at the moment is known to be in possession of Saradomin, and has actually been in Saradomin's possession for a very long time, since before the Naragi God Wars, up until this very day. It might likely be the first artifact Saradomin got his hands on and enabled to attain godhood. Like many other gods, he might well have been looking to collect more of the Elder artifacts, and eventually he found the Elder Stone, upon which he called it the Eye of Saradomin. That is the Stone of Jazz. So, that almost concludes the entirety of the Elder artifacts. There is only one other Elder artifact, and that is the Horn. Now all we know about the Horn is that supposedly when Guthix came to Gielinor and explored the lands, he gathered them up, and one of which was the Horn. Though we have no actual idea what the Horn is, looks like, or even does, it is in existence, and we do know of it, and we do know that Guthix, as to our knowledge, still has ownership of it. So that almost concludes everything you need to know about the Elder Gods within RuneScape. There is only one other thing. You really don't want to confuse the Elder Gods and the Younger Gods. The Younger Gods, such as Guthix, Saradomin, Zamorak, Armadil, Bandos, Zaros, and many others, aren't genuine gods. The only true genuine gods are the Elder Gods that we know of to date. The reason for this is the Elder Gods were born as gods. The Younger Gods, though, the Younger Gods is a term given to the variety of beings that have ascended to godhood. They weren't born, but actually gained godhood. And they gained godhood either by killing another god, or through the use of Elder artifacts, or both. They were never born, unlike the Elder Gods, but they can, however, still be very old and immensely powerful, as well as possessing extensive knowledge. But even then, they will never compare to the Elder Gods. Right, I hope you all enjoyed. That was the very first RuneScape lore. That was the Elder Gods covered. Good times! So that's a bit of backstory to RuneScape for you. Moving on, probably cover some other gods for you, and hopefully the first through to the 6th age should be a laugh. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will catch you all later. Have a good one.